Hello, everybody. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Show. And after one season back and spending most of it, frankly, at the bottom of the table, Norwich are now confirmed to have been relegated and will be returning to the Championship and to my watch again next season. This is my reaction to what's happened this season and the big picture for Norwich, whether or not their fans have got a right to grumble and whether or not the decisions that have been made are right. Now, in order to do that, we do need to look at the big picture. This is not the same as, say, a Bournemouth going down or a West Ham going down because of what has come before it and the mighty changes that there have been in the club in the last couple of years. So I'm going to do a quick whistle-stop tour. Don't worry, I will do it quickly, but we just need to go back in time to really get the bigger picture here and see what this means for Norwich. So there is the 15-16 Premier League table. Down at the bottom there in 19th. Norwich City relegated there under Alex Neil. Big bloated squad that they came down with to the Championship. But as they always seem to do, Norwich, they raised money. You can see there Brady, Redmond going for very good money. By the way, the all transfer marked figures, so write them a strongly worded letter if you disagree with the figures. They raised money, but they lost quality. And unfortunately for Norwich, they didn't manage to get rid of, Van Wolfswinkel's there, but there were highly paid players still in that squad, and that's going to become an issue as this 16-17 season goes on. And you will admit there that the recruitment was not good at all. Pritchard, it didn't work, did it? Big signing. Wiltshire, really, really overpriced and has done nothing since. Oliveira didn't work as soon as Farker came in. And we've seen Kanyos as well there, in and out pretty quickly there. And speaking of in and out pretty quickly, Alex Neil had taken Norwich up pretty quickly, got them relegated pretty quickly. And once the playoffs were out of sight, you can see there, 10th of March 2017. Alex Neil sacked by Norwich after 2 years in charge. A lot happened very quickly for him, but he could not cope with the up, the down, and the different types of approach needed, all happening one after the other from Championship to Premier League, and he paid the price. But this is the first of a series of decisions made by Norwich that they get right, that are all going to compound in about 2 years' time and lead to this incredible promotion that they're going to get. Probably the most important one there is the 6th of April 2017. Stuart Webber is hired as sporting director, and then not long after that, in comes Daniel Farker. Obviously, Stuart Webber had hired from Borussia Dortmund 2 before at Huddersfield with David Wagner, and he'd been promoted by doing that before. A lot of people, yours truly included, said, oh, he's just trying to replicate exactly what he's done at Huddersfield. That'll never work. And we saw what happened. 17-18, as always with Norwich, they raise money, but they lose quality. Pritchard, that's a pretty good turnaround to turn a profit on that deal. Jacob Murphy had come through the ranks, big sale there. Excuse me. Johnny Howson, good player, still playing in the Championship. Out he goes to Borough. And Cameron Jerome, Graham Dorrans as well. You'd think that would be more wage bill cutting type stuff. So those were the outs. And here comes the crazy ins. Look there. Hanley, Frank, Hernandez, remember that name. Stiepermann, remember that name. Shreveni, husband. Vrancic, remember that name. Raggett, McLean, remember that name. Tribal, remember that name. Zimmerman, definitely remember that name. And you can see down the bottom there, 3 loans now. So Norwich starting to be a little bit more careful. Angus Gunn, son of Norwich great Brian. Harrison Reed, who's still doing well for Fulham in the Championship. And Morris Leitner, remember that name. Slow going for Norwich that season. Daniel Farke struggling to get his pattern of play working with the squad he has at the time. Some sense of foreboding in the background with the parachute payments now running out this season, and Norwich finishing down in 14th. However, the one huge bright spark for Norwich was James Maddison. Outstanding player, outstanding season from him. And that is going to make a big difference to what they're able to do next season. There he is, Maddison. Look at that, 22.5 million transfer market reporting. Again, if you disagree with their figures, please take it out with them. And Murphy, 10 million. So those 2 Murphy twins raising a load of money for Norwich, and really not doing a great deal since they've left in terms of the money that got back in. So once again, Norwich lose quality but sell at high value. And here comes some more players. You've got to look at 3 in particular. Well, how can you replace Maddison? Well, there's Emi Buendia at the top there. Leitner goes in on a full contract there. But he doesn't have the impact that Tim Krul down the bottom there does. And by God, that Teemu Pukki does. So now you have a situation where Norwich have gone from being in kind of financial peril with people like Naismith and Basong and Dorrans, and I'm sure you can name me Van Wolfswinkel, Oliveira, loads of players on big contracts there, running out of parachute payments. They've managed to shift all of those out, got in a sporting director and a manager, given him a season, some progress made, but after a slow start in September, Norwich fans will all know where this is going. Daniel Farke does this at Reading. He's moved Pukki up front in the last game. Buendia's kind of up to speed now. Max Aarons has got in the team, young guy at right back. Krul's found his way in. Christoph Zimmerman has been in for a couple of games. Ben Godfrey is in the background. And Marco Stiepermann, this strange defender, midfielder, striker, hybrid player, is going to go in at the number 10 position. So Farke finds his team, and absolutely incredibly, to everyone's surprise, even the Norwich fans, that happens. And we end the season. Norwich are sensational from that point onwards, and way ahead of all the financial planning and the scheduling of Stuart Webber. They have found their way to the Premier League, and that is going to inform all of the comments that we can make about their relegation. You can see there 94 points, outstanding from Farke, from Webber, from Pukki, from Buendia, and from Aarons. Let's just say those key figures that are going to come in when we discuss what happens next for Norwich now they have been relegated. A lot has happened very quickly. Stuart Webber's probably ripping up his 5-year plan and rewriting it. What are they going to do? Are they going to learn from the lessons of the past, play it cautiously, not put lots of big financial liabilities? Remember, some things still need to be paid off. Obviously, a load of promotion bonuses now that weren't likely expected need to be paid off. Will they learn from the lessons of the past and play it very cautiously? Or will they say, my God, we did not expect to be here. Let's do everything we can to try and stay here. But obviously, maybe a little bit more sensibly from last time. They do the former, and they play it very cautiously. So there is Ralph Furman. He doesn't really get in the team. Sam Byram, a pretty good signing at a good price there. I think the one down the bottom there, Ibrahim Amadou, was supposed to push the needle a bit, but Dumic, Duda, Roberts, Bashiri, none of those signings really having any impact. No big money dropped as Norwich go into their Premier League season. So it looks, for all intents and purposes, like the Stuart Webber plan is contracts for the players that got Norwich up, presumably with nice relegation clauses in them and wage cuts and things of that nature. Stick with the players that so brilliantly won that championship, and hope that the pattern of play and the familiarity and system and the confidence of these players can see them score enough points to stay in the Premier League, or even better. Let's look at how those results went. We're looking from bottom to top. A rude awakening at Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool going to go on to be champions, but 2 wins in the next 4 gives Norwich 6 points from their first 5 games, which is thoroughly decent. And not just 2 wins, look at that. A victory against Manchester City there, against all odds really, because Norwich at this point have a racking up injury list, particularly hitting their centre-half positions. They even lose goalkeepers at one point, I believe, as well. However, after the big Man City win, you can see they're 1 point from the next 5, including a huge 5-1 home defeat to fellow promoted Aston Villa. On we go, and it doesn't get much better there. I've got 10 games up, just the 1 win at Everton, a few draws, which maybe Norwich fans would argue they could have got stuff out of, considering they took the lead. I was at the Norwich-Sheffield United game there. They took the lead in that one and went under. So the wins, very, very few and far between. The defeats racking up. Another win there against Bournemouth and 1 against Leicester, but we're still talking about 1 or 2 wins in 10. And they are bottom of the league with lots of defeats, lots of goals going in against. 4 there at Manchester United, 3 at Wolves, but still a fair amount of single goal defeats in there amongst the draws as well. We go into lockdown, and it's not very good after lockdown. 5 defeats leading up to what seemed to be the inevitable conclusion today, and Norwich mathematically relegated now. So what were the reasons for Norwich's relegation, and do Norwich fans have a right to be questioning some of these decisions that were made? Here are my thoughts. You can get yours in the comments. The obvious one is lack of recruitment. They went with a lot of players who are probably only Tim Krul there proven at Premier League level. They went with a lot of players, gave them a chance, but didn't really bolster what they had already. Not even one kind of marquee type signing to help the young players like Aarons and Godfrey and Cantwell, who came through well this season, and Lewis. So lack of recruitment is a fairly obvious one. Is it reasonable that they didn't recruit and spend loads of money? Possibly, because they'd had their fingers burnt with bad recruitment before. But you'd have to say, under Stuart Webber's watch, since, when was it, April 2017, the recruitment's been excellent. So surprised they didn't back themselves in that regard. But let me know what you think in the comments. Number 2, which is probably the biggest one, an open pattern of play. Norwich got promoted under Daniel Farke by pretty much playing all-out attack. Literally every time they would receive the ball, they would set up for a new attack. Every goal kick, centre-half split, fullbacks way forward. Basically 2 centre-halves and 1 midfielder holding, and that was it. Everyone else forward. They scored loads of goals in the Championship. Great to watch, but they did concede a lot. And when these same players who had never played in the Premier League, and people like Godfrey and Aarons particularly, only 40-odd games played in their entire career, never spent any time working, doing 20, 30 minutes without the ball and all of the concentration and different kind of skill set that takes. Not to say those players don't have it and aren't going to prove to have it in their career, but a skill that hadn't been honed widespread in this Norwich team. And it would kind of appear to be the case that Norwich did have games where they had the ball for a long time, but when they came under pressure, either short or sustained pressure, they did go under, and then the mistakes and the goals conceded started to happen. Would it have been reasonable for Daniel Farke to completely change his style of play? No, of course not. But would some work in getting compact without the ball and weathering storms of 15, 20 minutes that you're going to get in the Premier League been helpful to be added into that pattern of play? Probably. Lack of quality. This is the one that a lot of people like me are finding bemusing when into my podcast from the much respected Athletic feed and Ali Maxwell and Michael Bailey and Michael Cox comes a podcast that says, will Norwich be the best team ever to be relegated? And I'm hearing valuations of Buendia being worth 50 million, Pukki worth 25 million, Campbell worth 35 million, Godfrey 30 million, Aarons 40 million, Lewis 20 million. I'm seeing all these incredible valuations, yet I'm seeing defenders that appear at Premier League level not to be able to defend, and a team bottom of the league. Did Norwich lack quality? If they don't lack quality and all of those players are worth the amounts I've just said, then is there a systemic problem with the management? Because I'm not seeing those type of fees being attached to, okay, maybe one or two Aston Villa players, Grealish in particular, or Bournemouth players or West Ham players. So there does seem to have been a lack of quality, maybe in certain areas of the team. And I suppose that goes into the lack of recruitment. Anyway, let me know what you think. Obviously, lack of quality in depth as well when those injuries came and they couldn't get over that. So that would be my thoughts on why Norwich have been relegated. But did Stuart Webber and the hierarchy at the club there act in a reasonable way in terms of lack of recruitment? Arguably, maybe they did. An open pattern of play. Arguably, you don't tear up what Farke had done to get them there. And a lack of quality, well, everyone's telling me they do have quality. So very interested in people's comments on that, because some things don't seem to add up there. Now, what happens next is going to be very, very interesting. And get your thoughts in the comments on this, because we see teams come down into the Championship and we make great assumptions that they'll be absolutely fine, and given the quality of their players, they will go straight back up. This is an interesting one with Norwich, because it's happened ever so quickly that Webber's come in, they've cleared out, they've built a new squad, the parachute payments have stopped, they've got promoted, they've gone up, they've got relegated, the parachute payments restart. What is going to happen? Let me give you two scenarios. Both of these are extreme. I'm not saying either will happen, but I'm just going to try and picture the best case scenario for Norwich and the worst case scenario. So the best case scenario is blindingly obvious, that despite a few sales, maybe Campbell, Aarons, Buendia and Godfrey go, or three of those go, or two of those go, Norwich retain a strong team. They retain their manager. They retain their sporting director. And most importantly, they retain that pattern of play that was just unstoppable in the Championship. Teams will not be able to cope with the ball moving that quickly and that much attacking thrust. They reinvest the money from, say, Aarons or Buendia, and they sign well, like they have done. They have a decent first team. Maybe there's a little drop-off in quality from Aarons and Buendia, but not enough to stop them scoring 90-plus points and being promoted in a far more stable position than they would have been promoted previously. No more liabilities. Finances all sorted. They can go to the Premier League again. This time they can spend, and no one will be accusing them, like I just have, of lack of recruitment. Farke will be more the wiser on his pattern of play and have more tactics in the armoury. The lack of quality will be addressed by the new recruitment. They can build on that tiddly little stand they've got along the side and work towards becoming a stable Premier League club and staying there for decades to come. That is the best case scenario. Here's the worst case scenario. The sales we expect to happen in both scenarios. So out goes maybe Aarons, Buendia, Cantwell, whoever. but the team is significantly weakened by those players. They were accounting for a lot of the success, as well as the recruitment and Webber and Farker. The players maybe got Norwich up, and the absence of these players really weakens the team. The new signings that we expect to replace them don't work. We get Nelson Oliveira's, and we get, maybe obviously not at that price, and Van Wolfswinkels and Naismiths instead of Buendias, Pukis, Krulls, etc. There are no players coming off the conveyor belt. Aarons, Godfrey, Maddison, Cantwell, Lewis all arrived and made the first team. What happens if there isn't one player on that conveyor belt? Adam Ida's already there. I can see in the comments already. What happens if there are no players that make their way through off their conveyor belt there? We get injuries to key players. Maybe Pukki gets injured in the first game of the season, or I don't know, pick Zimmerman, any key Norwich player there. The players have lost confidence. They were full of confidence playing this open attacking football, but they've been losing games for a year. All of a sudden, they're drifting away from the playoff spots in the same way Alex Neil was back in 2016-17. And the supporters turn on Farker. They expect better. His high standards were free-flowing football and 94 points in that last season. They're not getting it. The atmosphere turns. And all of a sudden, the worst-case scenario in my eyes is that the Norwich hierarchy have a decision to make at the end of next season, knowing that they may not be getting promoted, to either back Farker. The clock is ticking again. One more year left of parachute payments because Norwich have only been up for one season. And it's a hard decision. Do they now back him despite a poor season relatively, considering they would expect to be in the top six and they're not there? Or do they take the gamble and bring someone else in with the knowledge that those parachute payments could run out? That, to me, would be the worst case scenario. Like I say, both of those are extremes. I'm sure there are plenty of other scenarios that could play out in the grey area in between. But which do you think would be more likely? Let me know in the comments. So that is my view on Norwich's relegation. Lots of sort of interesting stuff. Let me know what you think is going to happen next in respect of Norwich. And can I say, welcome back. Obviously, I cover the Championship, and despite some of the dull tribal football rivalries, obviously you can see up there is an Ipswich scarf. Some people, maybe some less intelligent football fans, cannot accept a rival fan speaking about their team. But I haven't found that to be the case with a lot of Norwich fans. So please hit the subscribe button because I'll be covering the Championship, and hopefully you'll enjoy my coverage next season. As it says down the bottom there, as always, you can support this channel via the super chat. Just go to view live chat and hit that dollar button, or via patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. I'm trying to work towards doing this full time. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. That's all free. Subscribing on YouTube is free, and it costs nothing to ring that bell for notifications. So you can be a super subscriber, and anytime I go live or post a video, you'll get a notification on your phone or wherever you view YouTube telling you that that content is there. Thank you very, very much for watching. Norwich fans' attention now goes to the Championship, and particularly that question right there: what happens next? Get your thoughts in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Hit the thumbs up button as well, and let's get some debate going on what happens next for Norwich. Now, relegation has been confirmed for the Canaries. Thank you for watching, and over and out from me.